Alright, it's a video on wiring a Kswap car with the hybrid racing universal conversion harness. I bought that harness because this is a CD Accord. They don't make a conversion harness for this like they do for like the EGs, the EKs, the Integras, the DC, whatever. So I had to make my own. Now, there's a few companies like Rywire that will make one. A lot of times you have to send in your old engine harness so they know what the plugs are and whatnot. I have a Rywire engine harness, but I did not opt to have them do the dash harness because that's another $500 and projects are already expensive. So about the hybrid racing universal conversion harness, which may look daunting, but it is less complicated than it looks. Don't mind all this wiring. So let's start here. The conversion harness I have kind of tied up to look a little nicer. Well, like eventually this will all be put away, but for now. Okay, this is the connector C101 that comes in off of your dash harness. The conversion harness plugs into your C101 connector here and also to the connector E on your PCM. Connector E, if you're looking at it from this side, from here, come on camera, figure it out. It goes A, B, C, D, E. So left to right, A to E. Connector E is the end one. C101 is your big one. Now, there's only a handful of wires you got to connect. Otherwise, most of the wiring is done by the conversion harness. The conversion harness also comes with your O2 sensor wiring and a relay to power that O2 sensor for the heater circuit. So this is my wire that runs just outside the car and runs to the O2 sensor, just like a regular Denso sensor. So we're going to go through the wiring and what you got to connect and how I did it versus how hybrid racing says you have to do it. So these wires that come off of here, when you get it, you can look online and there is a chart that shows what wires do what. So the ECU connector E, the first one, which is right here, it says the small black wire E26. How Hondas label their connectors, especially on the old ones, it's from looking at the back side of the connector of the female terminals. So you would be looking from the back side here and it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next row would be 7, 8, 9, 10. However many pins there are, that's how it will go. So we're going to look at the wire that comes off of here, and there's a small black wire. If I can get it here. So a small black wire that comes out of here, runs down here. I have it tied up right here. The small black wire is your RPM output. So this wire sends your RPM output to your gauges. So on my car, the RPM output would be connected on the original engine, on the old F22, to a pair of connectors that would pop out right here on the driver's side of the firewall. So I took those connectors, I pushed them inside the car, and then I made this extension harness here that will run inside under the dash to that side. Don't mind these colors, these are not correct. I just had those as lengths of wire. So what I did though, I have them here somewhere. Oh, right here. So I didn't want to wire them in like hardwire. I still wanted them to just plug in to make it easy. So these are the connectors off of the engine harness that I cut off. I just taped up the wires that I don't use. because you only wire into a few wires over on that side, over on the driver's shock tower plugs. So these plugs will plug right in, so that way I can still take out this whole harness without having to just cut wires. So the connectors over there, I have the wiring diagram right here. I printed out and made a wiring diagram for each wire that I have to connect. So the RPM output here goes from the gauge assembly and then goes to C134. C134 is the shock tower plugs here. If you look at here, let's see, C134, where are you at? Yeah, right there. C134, that's on the driver's side shock tower. Big gray connector, 8-pin connector. So it's blue. So this here, where do my connectors go? Here they are. So it's this blue wire here that's gonna connect. So this will be plugged in over there and then ran through this harness here. And then this harness, I just had a bunch of red wires, so that's what it is, runs to that small black wire out of connector E. Come on, camera. So somehow you got to get this small black wire here from connector E to your gauges. And that was the easiest way that I found. Okay, that's RPM. The next wire you have to do, we'll go after RPM output, is the mil output. So the malfunction indicator lamp output. This is what's going to turn your check engine light on or keep it off. That's also out of connector E. Those are the only two wires coming out of connector E. It's a yellow wire. There's a few yellow wires, but it's the yellow one coming out of E. So let's see. It is one of these two. I don't know why they do them both yellow. I think that's kind of weird. So it's connector E. It's the 31st. So that's the bottom right one if you're looking at it from this side. So it's this wire that runs here. And on my car, so the PCM, which originally sat here, turned on and off the mil, right? Turned on and off the check engine light. So we just simply spliced into that connector. So if I look at my mil output here, the powertrain, ECM, PCM, whatever you want to call it, that grounds the circuit. On the Hasport wiring harness, that also grounds the circuit. So we had to find the wire that came out of the connector. So right here, if we're looking on C461, ABC, that'd be the third connector on the old PCM. So here's the PCM, ABC, it'd be this connector, then it'd be number 18, which is light green red. So here's that yellow wire from the conversion harness. I put quick connects in here, just male and female spade connectors in here, so this way I can disconnect it if need be. And this is my green, gosh, cameras are garbage. This is my light green red, which is just out of this harness. So this is all the wiring that was under the dash. And these are all the plugs that plugged into the original PCM. So I just found the right connector, which I believe is this one. It's either this one or this one. No, it's this one. Yeah. See the wire that I cut? So that's my light green red. I cut it off there, and then I just put it right here. So I'm gonna lop off all of this when I'm all said and done, because I don't need any of this, and that just takes up a lot of space, and that doesn't really run anything. Because I used to run to the engine, which used to be all these connectors, but that engine's not in here anymore, so we don't have to worry about that. So, yellow wire from E31 on ECU connector E, that bottom right one, runs up here, runs to this yellow, and then connects to my mill output, which is light green and red on this car. It's different for all different cars, all different Hondas, whatever. That one's done. So we're done with connector E. So we're done with the mill output. The next wiring that we're doing is the VSS output. That's your vehicle speed sensor. Now this depends on what transmission you have. There's a few different ways you have to do it. If you have a output shaft speed sensor or a counter shaft speed sensor, they give out different voltages. Now if you have K-Pro, you can adjust for that and you don't have to do any wiring. So we're just going to assume that's the case. If not, the VTech Academy on YouTube has a whole write-up about how to convert VSS to CSS or the other way around. Anyway, for this, just to keep it simple, the VSS output is also going to be from the driver's shock tower, which is going to be from this extra long harness that I made. These wires aren't obviously long enough, so I need something to extend over there, hence the RPM output. The RPM output was over there, and also my VSS output, which is this one. So if we're looking here, VSS output runs from the, let's see, gauge assembly down here, and then C133. C133 is the other connector over there, which I threw down there, but it's the other one. All right, the connector down here that I tossed down here, this is the orange wire off of this other connector, which was to the original engine harness. So this orange wire, you'll see here, vehicle speed sensor, orange, goes to 133. Connector 133 is this one, which was up over there. So that will be plugged into those connectors that I pushed through the firewall, which are up under there behind the pedal assembly. And then that runs through this extension wire, and that'll run down here through these red wires. Don't worry about that. And that will run to my white wire, which is this one here. And that's out of the C101 connector. So C101 connector, remember, is this big one, and then you got a white wire that runs out of here. You can see it right here. This white wire has to somehow get to your gauges up there to give you vehicle speed. I ran it through here, ran it through this long harness that I made, and it'll plug in over there to the existing connectors. There's vehicle speed. Next one is the pink number 7 for fan control. It gives a ground signal. So my pink wire here, it's this. They say this is pink. I'd say this is light purple, but whatever. Because there's a purple wire. There's a purple wire there. And then there's this one, which I guess is pink. So this pink one is your fan control. Now, you can do this a few different ways. This provides a ground signal. So, what I did was run this. Like I said, I use spade connectors so I can disconnect them easily. I ran it to this green wire. Now, this green wire is usually controlled by the original PCM. Yeah, hi Diesel, what's up? Yeah, you happy to help? Yeah. So this green wire was grounded by the PCM originally, and that would turn on my fans. You could also run it to the back of your HVAC controls, which would turn your AC on. If your AC is on, both fans also run anyway, so you could do that. You could run this to a relay, and you could hook up a relay that powers the fans, and then the ground side of the relay would just be controlled by this pink wire. Either or. This wire was already down here by my original PCM anyway, so I just used this. So if we look on my wiring diagrams here, this is kind of split up because it was 2 different pages. So here, there's a radiator fan control module right here on my car. Not all cars, not all Hondas have this, but the Accords do. And you can see that if I provide a ground to the control, now that ground is either given by my AC diode, or the engine coolant temp sensor switch, which is outside up front, or if grounded by the PCM, that'll turn on. So that's what I use, C458. C458 is another one on this big connector here. Just that green one. So that green one, I disconnected and I just ran to this pink wire. So if you provide a ground here, which is what the new PCM does, my fans turn on. It's my fan control. After that, it says large black wires for your start relay. So out of here, there's a large black one. You can see it right here. That one is part of the harness. So the harness does have a line that runs up to your starter signal. It's like 16 gauge wire and I just didn't trust it. So I actually use the original car's starting system for this. It's a pretty big connector that would be on the passenger side shock tower, this big old thing. And this wire, the black and white one, is what provided the starter signal originally. And then that ran to the existing fuse box, to the existing relay. This used to be under the hood, and I moved it inside to clean up the engine bay. But then I used all the original fuses, the relays, the whole starting system is all original. I just simply, instead of this wire running to the F22 engine starter, it runs on its own harness. I kind of made a charge harness. I'll show you here. So I did not use the starting kind of system thing that Hybrid Racing has set up. So I made my own charge harness here, which runs down here. If you can see a good picture. So I got my alternator wire that's here, that loops up there. And then under here, see if I can get you a view of it. Not really. See my starter harness. Yeah, that runs on top of the starter there. And then my signal also. So you can see the signal wire here and then the starter wire right there. Those all run up together. They're all wrapped up, kind of tucked in here. And then this runs inside the car. And then I have my fuse box up here with my existing terminals. So I have my alternator wire there in the black, then my starting one in the white. And then that's where I also brought power to the fuse box, that wire that splices off there. It's black, but it's power, because I don't care. I know what it is. And that runs to this connector, to my power distribution block. And then this big red wire runs all the way to the back of the car and then goes to the battery that's back there with a 250 amp circuit breaker cutoff switch. So my starting circuit's all original. I did not use that. Otherwise, whatever provides your starting power, which for me would be this big black wire, I would just connect that to here. And then I would connect the spade connector out there that's on the harness. And that's a rye wire harness, and it's the cheap one. That's why it's all black wires. So hopefully they're all right, because I'll never know. Next circuit is the oil light. Purple 18 ground. That's also on the driver's shock tower. So there are 3 wires on an Accord that go to the driver's shock tower. This purple wire here, which is from over here, also from the C101 connector. So this oil light, this purple wire, provides a ground for your oil light. Diesel, shut up. You're fine. Yeah, I'm making a video. Yeah, you just want your ball. I know. Well, where'd your ball go? Oh, we don't know. Oh, it's way up there. Diesel, how'd you get it up there? Yeah, okay, let's get it. Brief intermission while I get Diesel's ball. Okay. There you go, all covered in cat litter, bud. All right. Oil pressure warning light provides a ground. Purple wire here Runs around, so I ran my purple wire here again to that harness I made, then that runs over there and that plugs into the existing ones. If I look here, my oil pressure light gets power here from the under dash fuse. Relay runs down C134 is the small one again, and it is red yellow. That'd be this wire. So it runs here. So that plugs in over there, provides a ground. If I have low oil pressure, that'll illuminate it. Next wire. Whew. Now we get into the relays that they have for the fuel pump and stuff. So how hybrid racing does it is they give you 3 relays here in a relay block, and one of them is for the fuel pump, and it would be the blue wire coming out of here. So your power is fed in here on the constant 12 volt, which we'll get to. Then your blue wire would send power to the fuel pump. And then the PCM grounds this relay to turn it on with this yellow wire. So I wasn't going to run a whole new wire to the fuel pump because the car already has a fuel pump and already has the wiring and the relays and the fuses and everything for it. So I cut this yellow wire, and it is right here. It's one of these. Oh, let's see. It's my green black wire. Yeah, this one right here. So this green black wire on the original PCM got a ground signal from the PCM, and then this in turn turned on my original fuel pump relay and then powered the fuel pump in the back of the car. So I thought that'd be a lot easier than running a whole new power wire to the fuel pump. I don't know why. This seems far easier. Then you got the fuses, the relays, it runs with the key. You don't got to have whatever, right? Everything just works. So I cut this yellow wire, which was the ground signal for this relay from the PCM. The PCM grounded this relay to turn on power to get power to the blue wire for the fuel pump. So I cut this yellow wire, took it here, connected it to this green black wire, which was connected over here again at the original PCM. Just instead of the original PCM providing a ground to turn on the fuel pump, this new PCM provides a ground to turn on the fuel pump. So, fuel pump done. Didn't use that relay. So I guess you could use that for anything else. Now I just have kind of a dead relay sitting there, but that's fine with me. Red wire is my constant 12 volt. So red wire off of here, which runs from my relay, provides power to all the relays and also to the PCM for like the memory. The keep alive memory. So this I ran to this white wire. I think it's white. White yellow. Yeah. So white yellow was the constant power to the original PCM, and white yellow is again another wire on this connector, and that originally provided power all the time to the original PCM, but now it's providing power to this new PCM and to the relays, and it's fused. And it's original, so it's just easier. So spade connector there. Here's my constant 12 volt. And then the only thing left is my switched 12 volt. So the original PCM had 2 wires, yellow blacks, also on connector C58. These 2 yellow ones on the end that provided switched power to the original PCM. So I ran those 2 wires. I just cut them up a little further on the harness, and they're right here. And I just put both of them, because they're both switched 12 volt, both of them ran into the orange wire, because the orange is my switched 12 volt. And then I have my switched 12 volt. Everything works like original. I turn the key on, powers up the relays, the fuel pump kicks on because of the original relays in the fuse box, and it fires right up. I don't think anything else is much different. The gauges that I'm running, the pod gauges and stuff, are all ran separately. They're all on their own fuse circuit and a switch to turn them on. Otherwise, yeah, everything else is pretty normal. So there's not really a lot of wires to hook up. If you didn't care about gauges, lights on the dash, or anything, I mean, your small black wire was your RPM output, if you don't care about RPM. Your yellow wire's the check engine light, you don't care about that. Vehicle speed, if you don't care about that. So really you need a pink wire for van control. Which, pink wire for fan control, I mean, you could run on like a manual temp switch out by the radiator and just run it to a relay, and then it just turns the fan on. This way you can control it by the PCM though. Large black start wire, you don't really need if you use your own wiring. Ground signal for oil light, which we don't care about. Fuel pump relay, didn't use. Red constant wire, orange is switch 12 volts. So really you need to connect 3 wires if you want to just have it run and start. That's about it. Also, part of the harness, which I forgot to talk about, is your OBD connector. So your OBD connector is a part of this harness also, which is nice. So you don't even have to deal with any of those lines. Yeah, if you got any questions or anything, let me know. Otherwise, that's pretty much it.